very difficult one, especially with the geopolitical events that are going on in the world today. I went the other day to buy diesel for my truck and my generator, and I was shocked that the price had increased by roughly 60-70% of what it used to be. And then very soon we start seeing inflation, we start seeing um, rise in utilities, in transportation, and at the same time, your income is not going up. So tonight, I'm going to teach you 4 skills, ancient skills that have been used by men and women throughout history to deal with adversity, to deal with difficult times. And then the interesting thing also that I've found, even in my own short lifetime, is that many people come out of hard times even better, richer, more mature emotionally, spiritually, and in many different ways. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to make that happen. And I see that there's a rise in depression, people are under all kinds of pressure, uh, families are quarreling, and at the same time, people are falling ill. There's a lot of anxiety in the air. People are very uncertain about the future. So the question is, how do you maintain balance and peace in a world that is filled with so much chaos? And you open your social media every day, you're hearing about this bombing threat, Iran versus Israel versus US versus some other countries that are going into the war. And then we're hearing how the supply chain systems in the world are being disrupted. So it's important because it's a fact of life that there's always a period of adversity. The world has always gone in cycles of good times, bad times, good times, and bad times. And then you remember the classical story of Joseph in Egypt, Pharaoh's dream and Joseph's interpretation of it. How Joseph told Pharaoh that periods of abundance are always followed by a period of adversity. But then, if you apply these 4 skills I'm going to tell you, it makes no difference whether it's a period of plenty or a period of lack. Your task is to remain unfazed, to remain untouched, to remain powerful, to remain in control. Your task is to stop trying to fix the world, but to fix yourself. So I'm going to show you these battle tested principles. So let me give you 4 of them in a nutshell. Then we are going to dive deep into each of these skills. And then the interesting thing also is that I'm going to lead you to do exercises. You know, I'm a coach and I always prefer the coaching because it's not enough just hearing about these things. You also need to know how to implement this thing because it's not about hearing. You can watch 1,000 YouTube videos. You can scroll through 1,000 um, Facebook or TikTok videos and things like that. But until you actually get yourself to begin to implement, to begin to self-account, to take personal responsibility for your change, nothing happens. So I'm going to give you very powerful and simple exercises that you will take to implement these 4 skills. So make sure you have your pen and paper. And of course, I always encourage you to type something in the comment section. Once you hear something that is an aha moment, something that has done, it has made the day for you, type it in the comment section. So as I mentioned these 4 skills, I need you to type them in the comment section and go ahead and like this live session and also share it so that more people will get to know about this. Okay, so the skill number 1 is what we call radical acceptance. This will help you to stop bleeding energy. The skill number 2 is the skill of narrative reframing. This was one of the most powerful skills that I learned as an executive coach, during my certification as an executive coach. That reframing allows you to turn pain into purpose. The skill number 3 is the skill of anti-fragility. That is one of the most important things you will learn tonight. How do you get stronger under pressure? How do you get stronger under pressure? We'll talk about that. And then I will also talk about the man that popularized the anti-fragility principle. And then the skill number 4 that we're going to do today is what I call the skill of village activation. Because none of us was meant to do this alone. You're going to discover that the reason that most of us are suffering much more than we should is because we're trying to go it alone. But we are social creatures. We're not created to be alone and to go through times like this alone. So grab a pen and open your notes, and then let's build your hard times survival skill. Everybody type it in the comment section. I need you to flow with me. I need to see some energy from the room. Hard times survival skill. Write it quickly. Hard times survival skill. So type it and let me know that you are in the room. Okay, yeah, welcome. The art of the fart, 523. Yeah, okay. Yeah, happy to have you here. Okay, very good. Very good. Yeah. Hello, Fumilayo. Good to have you here. And then hello, Philip. Okay, great. Okay, so skill number 1 is radical acceptance. Radical acceptance, the aim of radical acceptance is for you to stop fighting reality so that you can free up energy for solution. This is really important. So this first skill is probably the hardest, but it's the foundation of everything, else. So when hard times hit, what do people normally do? Type in the comment section. Everybody, what is people's first reaction when hard times hit? Okay, it's a coaching session, so flow with me. So what do people do? What's the first thing people try to do? So the African nomad says they complain. Yep. Yeah, people complain. That's the first reaction. Yeah. Faustine says panic. The art of the fart says cry. Exactly. That's what people do. Yeah. Movu Chika says complain as well. Yes. Fear. Okay. He says take a dump. Okay. And then future tech headline says they lament. Exactly. And then Philip says they calm down. Very good. I like that one. They calm down and re-strategize. Very good. And your answers are all correct because what people do when things hard times hit, you just need to go to social media and see what people are talking about, how they are responding to the current economic situation. For those of you watching in Nigeria, there hasn't been power supply for weeks. And then many people are not getting even an hour of electricity. And you go to the comment section, you will see how people are complaining. And then they are screaming. And then people are asking, why is this happening to me? The economy shouldn't be like this. These politicians are killing us and things like that. But one of the things you need to actually pause and ask yourself is that, has the universe ever once listened to you complain and changed its course? Has it ever? You shouted, you complained, you cried, you screamed. Has the universe listened to you abruptly? Okay, this person is complaining. Let's do something different. No, the storm does not care that you didn't pack an umbrella. You didn't, so the storm is not going to say, like it just finished raining a few minutes ago here, very heavy tropical rain. The storm did not say, okay, you didn't pack an umbrella, so let's change our mind. And the fire does not care that you just bought your house. Some people bought house like today, and then in 3 weeks, fire burnt it down. Why? Because reality is different, is indifferent to your feelings, to how you feel about it. And so this is very hard to accept, but that is what it is. And I've read in my younger days, I read a lot about Epictetus, the philosopher, Stoic philosopher. Epictetus said many things, many wise things. And one of them is that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That's why uh, the same thing happens to two people, and then they react totally differently. But it's the same situation. They react totally differently. It's Epictetus. Epictetus. That's his name. Okay. So he also says something even more important. He said, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. And then Jim Rohn used to say that that on this planet, it is what it is, and that if you don't like it, go create your own planet, because the planet was before you came. Things have been happening before you came. There were bad people before you came. There were bad governments. There have always been bad governments. There were bad governments 3,000 years ago. I'm reading Old Testament history now of these kings, and there were Baal worshippers. There were people, celebrities in Illuminati. There were child, whatever. I don't want to say that, to the argument. All those things were happening, So the world has always been this way. So don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do and that you will go on well. That's what Epictetus said. Okay? And so this is an exercise. The first exercise I want you to do, everybody. I want you to do this right now, and let's do it live. Okay, so draw a line. I'm looking for paper. Okay, this is my journal. So I need you to draw a line in the middle of a page. Make sure you are doing it. Okay, so you draw a line at the middle of a page, like this. Okay. Now, on the left side of the page, write things I cannot control. Everybody, make sure you are doing it. Make sure you are doing it. And of course, if you're driving and listening to the audio, you can always come back to this video and rewatch it, but just make sure that you do it. So on the left side, you write things I cannot control. Okay, I think my video might be showing you my left to my right and then my right to your left. Okay, so then on the right side, you write things I can control. This exercise will change your life. It will change your marriage. It will change your money, your finances. Okay, have you done it? Okay, so on the right side, you write things I can control. On the left side, you write things I cannot control. So let's fill it together. Okay, what are things? Just give me examples of things that you cannot control. Put it in the comment section. Things you cannot control. Let me give you some examples. You cannot control interest rates. You cannot control, or let me talk about myself because you can. So it should be personal to you. So I cannot control interest rates. I cannot control the price of a barrel of oil. I cannot control global politics. I cannot control Donald Trump's decisions. I cannot control the Ayatollah's decisions. I cannot control the missiles, where they fire missiles and who they decide to drag into the war. Okay? I cannot control what you think about me. I can't control that. I can't control that. Do you see how powerful that is? I cannot control the weather. I cannot control the past. I cannot control other people's opinions. Okay, give me your examples in the comment section. Yes, Philip says, stock prices. Absolutely. You cannot control stock prices. Very good. And then Teresia Como says, inflation. Yeah, you can't control inflation. Give me some other personal examples, things you personally can control. Go on. See, I cannot control the way strangers react to me. I cannot control the way people drive in traffic. You are going to see why it's important to make a list of these things, for yourself. Write all of them, quick. I need some more examples. I need some more examples. Things you cannot control. Things you cannot control. Okay? You cannot control government policies. Yes, very good. You can't control government policies. I can't control, for instance, myself, I can't control the Nigerian politicians. I can't. I can't control that. I can't even control corruption. I can't control electricity supply. Okay, so that is for the left side. Now, for the right side, things you can control. So, tell me what you can control. Tell me the things that you can control, okay? Put your examples on the comment section. That's the right side. So, for instance, I can control how much money I spend this week. I can control that. Okay? I can control what time I wake up in the morning. I can control the story I tell myself, not the one you tell about me. I can control the story I tell myself. I can control who I ask for help. I can control what I learned today. Like I had to sit down to put this note together that I'm teaching you to, because I was listening to a podcast. And then in that podcast, the gentleman, I don't know who he is, but it was just a clip of that podcast. And then he said something that shocked me, that astounded me, because it could be true. So he said that if there was an emergency today in Nigeria, that only 1% will survive. It shocked me. And then the interviewer was asking, so they started talking about, like, if there's an accident. So they use a very simple case, like if there was an accident on the road, that you only have 1% chance of surviving. Because he said that even to move you from there to the hospital is deadly risk itself. And then I have seen it happen. There's an accident and people are just there, lying there, nothing. So I said, wait a minute. I think one of the most important things I can do for my community is to think through, to help them to think through skills, that they are not helpless. No matter how bad things are going on in the world today, that you are not helpless. You just need to learn these skills. And that's why it's important for you to follow these exercises carefully, because at the end of it, tomorrow you will not care whatever CNN says. You will not care how many bombs they throw in Israel or they throw in Iran. You will not care what's happening. You will not care, because you can't control those things. But there are things you can control. Okay, so I can see exactly. Teresia says, I can control what to invest. Correct. All right. Young Billionaire TV 4407 says, I can control what I spend my time doing daily. Absolutely. Fantastic. Tushiaki says, I can control who I interact with. Absolutely. Okay. Ghanaian says, I can control my choices. Absolutely. Fantastic. Mary says, I can control my anger. Okay. The African nomad says, I can control what I focus on. Teresa Como says, I can control my thoughts. Young Billionaire says, I can control what I do with my time daily. Now you're getting it. You're a fantastic audience. Okay. So here is a psychological trick. Anxiety lives. Look at all the things you have in the left column. Yes, I like future tech headlines. He says, I can control who I decide to marry. Absolutely. Many people think that marriage is fate. You can decide. You can control who you want to marry. Okay? Now, So here is the trick. Psychological trick. Anxiety lives in the left column. See, all those things you mentioned, that is where anxiety lives. Every single time that you feel anxious, zoom out and ask, is this my left column or my right column? What I've just told you now is very powerful. Do you know, if you just, even if you stopped here and you learned this and this actually got to you, do you know that your anxieties and fear, you would have eliminated like 80% of it? So whenever you're feeling anxious about something you hear, about whatever, or about any part of the day, ask yourself, that anxiety, that depressive thought, that depressive feeling that you are having, is it in your left column or in your right column? Now, if it is in your left column, you are burning energy on something you cannot change. So it's like, have you ever tried to push a car or push a truck? I have a heavy truck, Ford F-250 diesel. Have you ever tried to push that vehicle, not even with the brakes on, just push it to move it 1 inch? What will happen? You get exhausted, and at the end of it, the car doesn't move. That's what you do. You know, when you are burning energy on the left column, you will finish burning your energy. You will tire yourself out. You'll be an emotional wreck. You will go to bed so angry, defeated, depressed, and the car still doesn't move. So you see, that's why radical acceptance is powerful. Radical acceptance is not giving up. Radical acceptance is not giving up. It's just the rechanneling of your energy. Okay? It is saying, this is happening. I don't have to like it, but I refuse to waste 1 more ounce of energy fighting it. I cannot control the politicians and their terrible, I can't control it and their terrible policies or the corruption. I can't control that. I can't control what a governor, his wastefulness. I can't. So why do I burn energy on that I can't control? Why do I burn energy fighting it? I can't control the weather. And then for some of you in this part of the world, it's been very hot. It's been very, very hot. The weather has been very hot. You know, we're recording like 42 degrees. You know, that's very hot, 42 degrees Celsius. You can complain all you can, but you're burning energy. And the temperature still does what it's doing. The weather still does what it's doing. So radical acceptance saying, I am not taking that energy. I'm moving it. So I am taking that energy. I'm moving it to the right column. That's what radical acceptance means. It doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean, okay, I'm not trying again. No. It says, instead of taking that energy I'm wasting, commenting or following politicians and their horrible policies, I want to transfer it from the left column to my right column. I want to move it to my right column because that's powerful. Because if you move that energy from your left column to the right column, it's incredible the kind of results you will get. So this is the secret why many of you go to bed tired every day, because you spend the whole day burning energy on things you have no control over. If it has happened to you, type in the comment section, I'm guilty. If it has, type I'm guilty. If you've ever spent the whole day and then at the end of the night you're going to bed exhausted, tired, feeling that it wasn't a profitable or productive day, and you still accomplish nothing, and you are going to bed angry. You are angry with the world, angry with the politicians, angry with everything, and nothing has happened. If it has ever happened to you and you burn that energy, type I'm guilty. It's not only me, it has happened to me. Type I'm guilty in the comment section. Okay? So that is tool number 1. That is skill number 1, acceptance. Because what it does is it lowers the emotional temperature so that you can think clearly. Because one of the most important assets you have during difficult times is clear thinking. That, in fact, I think is the most important asset during hard times. Clear thinking, clarity in your mind. Okay, so now we've done with skill number one. Now that you have stopped fighting fire, let's talk about how to find the light in the small. Okay, so that is radical acceptance, the skill number one. Okay, yeah. So I can see a couple of people guilty, guilty, guilty. Yeah, 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 I'm guilty. But after tonight, stop it. Once you find yourself in that situation, ask, is this on my left column or is this on my right column? And then move the energy from the left and right column. And then you will start sleeping well and comfortably, and you start having clarity of thinking. All right, skill number two, narrative reframing. Everybody type it in the comment section. Are you enjoying this session? Type yes if you are. Are you enjoying this? Is this helping you? Is this giving you some encouragement? Is it giving you some hope? Type yes in the comment section. Okay, so skill number two, narrative reframing. Type it, type it. Okay, so now narrative reframing is something that gives you power to choose the meaning in your struggle. I have a book. It was on my table. Okay. Oh no, it was on my table a while ago. That's a book I'm going to recommend to. It should be somewhere very close here on my shelf. That's a book I'm going to recommend to all of you. I don't know how many times I've read this book. It's written by Viktor Frankl. Okay, Viktor Frankl. In the middle of World War II, he was a psychiatrist, was a doctor, and then he was imprisoned in the concentration camp. So he was, and then he lost everything: his family, his possessions, his freedom. He watched people. He watched people. That book is a classic. Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl. Read it. Please read that book. If you can read it this week, I'm telling you, it changes your life. Because you can't talk about dealing with adversity. You can't talk about survival in hard times without reading that Viktor Frankl's book. If you actually come with it, it does a lot for you. So he watched people die, and he something, which was the core thesis of his book. He said that the people who survived were not necessarily the strongest or the healthiest people. The people who survived that concentration camp, he said they were the ones who could find meaning in the suffering. If you can't find meaning in your suffering, if you can't find meaning in your adversity, my goodness, your first attack is going to be depression. And once you allow depression to seep into your head, it brings all other demonic things, with it. It brings all kinds of things with it. But when you find meaning in your struggle, my goodness. So I remember the times, the hardest period of my life as a father and husband. So I have a wife and I have children. And things were extremely difficult because I lost everything. I lost all our savings, and this was shortly after I left my job with Shell. So I lost everything, and it was difficult to feed the family. It was difficult to pay rent. It was difficult to do everything, but my children were very young, intelligent, beautiful children, lovely, full of life, and then I walked into the room, one night because as father, I wake up before everybody. I go to bed after everybody. make sure everywhere is locked, and then I usually will step into their room to say a blessing, to put my hand on their young heads and bless them and say words over them. So this particular day, um, I got into their room, and it was about midnight. And then what these beautiful angels, just sleeping peacefully, curled up in their beds, and you know, and I looked at what I was going through at that time. I was unable to pay their fees, and then sometimes the school would chase them back home, and they would stay home because I couldn't pay. So I was looking at these children. I said, "My God, is this how it's going to end with these children?" I said, "No way! I am going to fight to give these children the best I ever give them. Any father could give them, because I was there. It's like giving up was not an option. Giving up was not an option. So in that suffering, I did all kinds of things. I sold coffee, good coffee from the boot of my car. It was in that situation that I also sold fruit juices. I had to go make fruit juices, and then sometimes I'll take those fruit juices and go by the streets where people were exercising. I'll be dancing by the side of the road and selling fruit juices because I told myself, whatever it takes, I found meaning to my suffering. And then that meaning was, these children, no matter whatever it takes, I'm going to give them a future that they deserved. So the people who survive are not necessarily people who are strong or healthy or intelligent. The people who survive are always the people who find meaning in the suffering. So Viktor Frankl also wrote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Fantastic. And his most famous line, he said, he who has a why to live for, can bear almost anyhow. Everybody, type it in the comment section. Everybody, type this quote, every one of you. He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. Type it. Okay, so Mary is asking for the book title. The book title is Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl. Frankl is spelled Frankl. Viktor Frankl. Fantastic book. Okay? Everybody type that quote. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Okay, so there's a why and then there's a how. I said, because I had a very strong why to make sure I created a future as a father for these children before I die. I didn't want to leave them to a cruel world. I didn't want to leave them, just like that, vulnerable to a cruel world. So I had a why. And because I had a why, I was able to endure or to bear almost any how. Okay. So the human brain is a meaning-making machine. So if you don't give your struggle a meaning, which is to the worst meaning, you have to, the brain must work with meaning. It must work with meaning for what you're going through. It may even be a loss. You've lost a husband, my condolences. You've lost a younger brother like I did, terrible blow. You've lost your father like I did, terrible blow. You lost your mother like I did, terrible blow. You must give your brain a meaning. Because if you don't, it will default to its own meaning. And what's the worst meaning that your brain will default to? I am a victim. I am a victim. I am being punished. The world is against me. Que sera, sera. The world is against me. And you remember, Einstein was asked what is the most important question in life. He said that the most important question that you have to answer is the universe friendly? So when you believe that the universe is an enemy, that the universe is against you, you will spend the rest of your life fighting enemy. That's why some religious people, the bulk of their prayer is, all my enemies fall and die. They always see enemies in everything and everywhere because in their worldview, the universe is an unfriendly place. Somebody tries to shake hands with them, they refuse because this could be an enemy. They hear a phone call, they refuse to pick it because this is not a number that they know. It could be an enemy that is trying to penetrate, all kinds of things. Okay, so if you don't give your brain a meaning, your brain will default to the worst meaning ever. The worst meaning ever is that you're a victim. At the moment your brain assigns that meaning to your life and to your experience, that you're a victim, that you're being punished, that everything is against you, that life is unfair, everything starts going downhill. Okay, so now let me lead you through a very, very powerful coaching exercise. Okay, I hope you're getting value in this and that you're implementing this and that you also share this. It's funny, with many of you here, I'm only seeing 8 likes. 8 likes. What are you waiting for? Press that love button. Press it, okay? So that the algorithm can also make it available to people who need to hear this information. Free. Okay, so let's go through the exercise for the second skill. Okay, so I have called this exercise the because shift. Because shift. You can type that, because shift. So this is a language trick that rewires your brain. Okay, I studied neuro-linguistic programming as well, and it's important. The way we talk to our brain is one of the most important things, and then the internal dialogue that you have, because your brain is always talking to you, and then you need to seize that internal dialogue to make sure that it's telling you the things that you really need to hear that can help you. Okay, so this exercise rewires your brain. So most people tell their story like this: I am struggling because the economy is bad. I have heard some like, I am struggling because I was born in the wrong part of the world. I am struggling because I have the green passport. Which type have you also heard? Or which one have you also told yourself? That's what most people do. Give me an example of what you've heard. I am struggling because. And you see, what happens is that sentence puts the power outside of you. You now become a noun being acted upon by the economy. You now become a noun being acted upon by your green passport. So I want you to change one word. That is the exercise. I want you to change one word. So change that word because to so that. Oh my goodness. This is a $10,000 coaching class. This is going to free somebody. So change that word because to so that. So stay with me, for instance. I am going through this hard time. Instead of saying because of the economy, you say, I am going through this hard time so that I can learn to be resourceful. Do you see how that power shifts right now? I am going through this hard time. Instead of saying because of the economy, I'm saying so that I can learn to be resourceful. Isn't this powerful? In the comment section. I am facing pain so that I can teach my children what strength looks like. This is a very personal example. Because when we were going through our difficult time, I was very intentional to make my children realize that life is hard. And at times are going to come when things are difficult. I wanted to model for them strength. I wanted to model how to go through difficult times. Because you can't raise children on milk and honey. They also need the mountains and the stones and the gravel because things will cut their toes. Life will cut your toes. The grasses in the field, will lacerate your skin. People are going to be mean. The economy is going to be very, very complicated. That's the reality of the world. So I was very intentional. I said, I'm facing this struggle so that I can model for my children what strength looks like, so that I can model how to make difficult decisions in the face of pressure. So they watch me pray. They watch me they watch me have conversations, with them and with their mother about the situation. They heard me every day tell them that this situation is an optical illusion. They grew up hearing that word, optical illusion, that the reality is different from what we are seeing in the external. So you change that because to so that. Okay? I am losing this comfort so that I can discover who I am without it. Maybe your car knocked engine and then you are now trekking and then it's difficult to buy another one. Maybe the car was completely totaled in an accident and that's the only car your family has. Now you people have to start trekking. And so you're saying, look, I have lost this comfort so that I can discover who I am without it. Because many of you think that you're your car. Many of you think that you're your title. Engineer, doctor, surveyor. Yeah. So, and until you lose it, you will not discover what you are. Without it, until you lose that job that you're allowed to define your identity. Many of us do not know that we have become attached emotionally and spiritually to our job title. And then when you lose that job, people lose their job and they totally crash because they tie their identity to their job. My goodness, you are not your job. You're not your job. So if you lost that job, you now reframe it that I lost this job so that, not because my boss didn't like me, not because I didn't make a good decision. No, I lost this job so that I can discover who I am without it. Is somebody finding this useful? Tell me, type value in the comment section. Okay? Yes. So I have some examples in the comment section. Insick Tube says, I am going through this hard time so that I can learn to overcome the challenge. Fantastic. I like that. Give me some more examples. Give me some more examples. I am going through this, whatever it is, so that then you complete it. So you see how you reframe it. I am going through this period of my life so that I will become wise enough to help other people who are coming behind me. Okay? Then you can reframe your divorce. I mean, if you've had some very difficult relationships and then some part of my audience are battling divorce or you've been divorced. So reframe it. And then if you're in that situation, reframe it. Type it in the comment section. I'm going divorce so that going through this divorce, instead of because my wife was, a bitch or something, I'm going through this single parenthood so that, okay, it might be so that you will get to know more of yourself. What was it about you that took you through that path, okay? Very good. Okay. So if you look at history, important people around you, even people around you, people you know, could be your own father, could be your great-grandfather, it could be people in the history books. Every single person that we admire today went through something that would have broken most people. Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day, who came for some kind of counseling. I said, listen, you see me and then you think, I just fell from heaven. The things I have gone through in this life, the things I have gone through in this life will break most people. We break most people. What I went through. Okay, so someone like Abraham Lincoln himself, he failed in business. He had a nervous breakdown. He lost multiple elections. I'm sure many of you know the story of Abraham Lincoln. So that he could develop the empathy and resolve to save a nation. So Abraham Lincoln did not use because. He shifted to so that. And then what about our own Nelson Mandela? Spent 27 years in prison so that he could emerge without bitterness and lead a country out of apartheid. So that this is how powerful it is and how different than if you had used because. Okay, so you're writing your own history right now. What is the title of this chapter? Is it the time I was broken, or is it the time I was forged? Very, very powerful. Okay, now you see what you just did. You took a problem and then turned it into a purpose. That's powerful. That is powerful. That is the real dominance, because it's giving you control of the narrative. Okay? All right, so let's go to skill number 3. We have done the first 2 skills. Skill number 3 is the skill of anti-fragility. And then, if you're my American, part of my American on the audience, you say anti-fragility. Okay? Anti-fragility. But if you were educated by the British, like we were, anti-fragility. Both are correct. Anti-fragility. You can type it in the comment section to help you remember. Okay. Now, anti-fragility was popularized by a thinker. Some of you may follow him, may have followed him, or you may know him. He's a great guy to listen to. Nassim Taleb. Nassim Taleb. I think he's, I'm not sure if he's Lebanese in origin or something, but it's possibly American. If you know Nassim Taleb, you can tell us a little bit more. Okay? So, this is the third skill. And so, Nassim Taleb says that there are 3 types of things in the world. There are 3 types of things in the world. When I talk about it, when I mention them, please type it in the comment section to help other people remember. Okay? So, number 1, fragile. Fragile are the things that break under pressure. Can somebody give me examples of fragile objects? Type it quickly in the comment section. An example of fragile objects. So they're the things that break under stress. Okay? So, yes. So a good example is a glass cup. A glass cup, put it under pressure. It breaks. Taleb says that the second type of thing in the world is robust. So the first one, fragile. Second one, robust. Okay? Robust things are things that withstand stress. Give me some examples of things that withstand stress in the world. Yes, Ganiat, you're right. So breakable plates are fragile. So we're now talking about what are the things that withstand stress. So I can immediately think about something like a rock. It withstands stress. If you hit your leg on the rock, the rock will, okay, rubber, okay, it's robust. Yes, and then Chinedu, you're correct. I'm sure you're talking about fragile. Chinedu says egg. Yes, egg is very fragile. All right, so robust are the things that withstand stress. Number three, he said, then there are things that are anti-fragile or anti-fragile. Anti-fragile. So these are the things, according to Taleb, these are the things that get stronger under stress. And do you know that your muscles get stronger under stress? This is why physical strength training, this is why resistance training is very good the older you get. Okay, like I'm 60, I need to do a lot of lifting and strength training because under stress, you develop your muscles. And then the older you grow, the worst thing you want to happen to you is to lose your muscles, is to lose your mobility. So muscle is anti-fragile. It gets stronger under stress. The same thing with bones. A bone that heals thicker after it breaks, it becomes thicker. And it's also the same thing with your immune system. Your immune system is anti-fragile because after exposure to a virus, it actually becomes stronger. Okay, so now here is the trick. Many people want to be robust during hard times. They want to be robust. They want to hide in a bunker and wait for it to be over. But that is a losing game. The world is not going to stop being chaotic. Many of you entered this year. You didn't plan for war. You didn't plan that there was going to be a global conflict. We hadn't even finished dealing with Ukraine and Russia. And I think those ones are still, we hadn't finished dealing with the tariffs between America, the tariff war between America and China. We're still dealing with that one. And then the very next thing we heard is kaboom, and then bombs are dropping over Iran. You can't control that. So how long are you going to continue to be robust, to hide? It's a losing game. So the goal is not just to survive the storm. The goal is to come out of that storm stronger than when you went in. That's your goal. Okay. So now let's talk about the practical exercises for anti-fragility. There's a way you train your brain or you train yourself to be anti-fragile because it doesn't come naturally. So you don't wait for massive crises before you start building strength. So what you can do is you introduce small controlled doses of stress. You introduce that right now. And then they have a term for that. It's called hormesis, the poison that becomes the medicine in small doses. So how do you practice anti-fragility? There is financial anti-fragility. Very, very important. So even if you have money, for instance, you practice a no-spend day once a week. That's anti-fragility training. You know, a couple of years ago, I threw a challenge out there, to my audience. What I called, so I asked them, how many days in the week can you go without spending? That's good. So, but you have the money. But anti-fragility thinking says go days or go a day without money. And then you can also practice that with food. Even if you have food, you can practice like a 24-hour fast, like once a month or something. Why? Because it trains your psychology. It sends a signal to your brain. See, I can survive without comfort. I am not dependent on abundance. In other words, abundance or lack makes no difference. Paul, the apostle, said that I have learned Paul was exceptionally anti-fragile. Paul said, I have learned to abound with much and also with little. And that's why he said, I can do all things. A lot of people quote it in a very different context. Paul was just saying, listen, I'm anti-fragile. I know how to behave myself and to enjoy good when there's plenty, when there's a feast. I also know how to be contented when there is nothing. That's an exceptional case of anti-fragility. Okay? So now, when real shortage comes, your brain doesn't panic. It says, oh, I've done this before. That's what makes it very powerful. But if you've never fasted for 3 days before, if you've never fasted for 24 hours before, when a real situation comes, maybe you're running, maybe a bomb suddenly falls on your city and you guys are running, and you've not eaten, you have not eaten food for 24 hours, you're going to go crazy. But if you're like the guys, who have been fasting 3 days in 1 month, some people who do 30 days, who do 40 days, when you get into that situation, your brain just says, oh, chill, I've been through this before. Are you getting this? This is really powerful. So don't wait until that situation hits you before introducing small dose of that stress. So that when it now happens, your brain says, nothing to see here, nothing to worry here. We've been through this before. Okay. There's also physical anti-fragility. Sometimes you've seen people who take cold showers or who have ice bath. They dip themselves in ice. Or people in the snow regions, who take off their shirts and then dive into snow. So what it does, it shocks your nervous system and teaches it to return to calm under stress. So this is physical training for emotional resilience. But of course, before you do things like that, it will always be nice to talk to your doctor. There's also emotional anti-fragility. Have a difficult conversation that you have been avoiding. Do the thing you are afraid of. Rejection is a stressor. Go out there, try to sell something. Let people say no. Pick up something. Then ask. Ask like the most irrational things you can ask for people. Ask, from people. Very, very powerful. I mean, I can just see you. I like your watch, and we're waiting in the airport room, and I like your watch. And then I ask you, can I wear that watch for the when we are boarding? I'd like to feel this watch. I like to wear it. Can you give me this watch to wear? You're a total stranger and all that. So the idea is not that he should give you the watch. The idea is that you should become comfortable with people telling you no. You become comfortable with people telling you no. Can I borrow your car, from a stranger or your neighbor who just bought a Range Rover? The new one. What do they call that? Is it the autobiography or something? And then you have your 2001 Corolla or something. And then this guy, very wealthy, very well to do. Can I take your car out? I'd like to borrow your car to take my wife out or something. So get used to people telling you no, to rejecting, so that it makes you immune to fear of rejection. I'm telling you, a lot of people are battling rejection. So you can give yourself emotional anti-fragility. Have difficult conversations. Like I sit down with my family and tell them, like, what should happen if I die? It's a very difficult conversation, talking with your loved ones about your death. But that is powerful emotional anti-fragility. And then by the time you have done that, and then they get used to it, then the day you go, they're not going to be terribly heartbroken. They will miss you, but it's not going to be something that's how emotional anti-fragility happens, okay? So the challenge I'm going to give you this week. So I want you to pick one micro dose of discomfort. Skip a meal if you're not used to that. Skip one meal. Take a cold shower. You can do something you've not done before. Take a cold shower, like a really very cold one in a cold day. Tell somebody no when you usually say yes. Wake up an hour earlier than you need to. Make a request that you know that your neighbor will say no to. Of course, it should be a reasonable request. I mean, you can't go to your neighbor and say, please, can your wife stay over with me this weekend? That's not what I'm talking about, but make that sort of unreasonable request and hear no. Why? Because comfort is the enemy of growth. That's an aha moment for somebody. Type it in the comment section. Type it. Everybody, I want to see somebody type it. Comfort is the enemy of growth. The reason I have grown and I keep growing is because I have become very comfortable with putting myself in very awkward and very discomforting situations. My living shell was extremely. I mean, how can you quit a job like that? People thought I was insane. People in the village, who heard about it, they came fighting. How many people in our village do we have working in Shell that we overheard that you want to quit Shell? It was extremely discomforting because I didn't know what the future held. And this was a fantastic job that paid millions, that paid well. As at that time, very comfortable. I traveled around the whole world working with Shell with Chevron. And I woke up one day, I said, I'm done, I'm leaving. And I put myself in, I just jumped off the cliff. If I didn't do that jump off the cliff, quitting Shell, I would never have written the books I've written. I would never have been on television for 5 years. I would never be doing the things I'm doing now. I would never have walked to Stanford University. I would never have met the incredible individuals around the world that I met today. It's incredible. But if you insist on comfort, forget growth. Okay? If you only do what is easy, you will only be strong enough for easy times. I wish I can drum this, into somebody's brain. That's why you struggle when things are hard. Because you've been doing only the things that are easy. Man, it's tough, it's hard to quit Shell when you have a wife and children. It's insane. People said I was insane. Okay? So you will, if you do only what is easy, you will only be strong enough for easy times. And the times that we're going through are not easy times. You better prepare. It might still be worse. Nobody knows the geopolitical events that nobody knows. Remember, it's not under your control. Nobody knows how long it's going to last, and then the consequences of that. Okay? So at this time, we accept reality. That's skill number 1. Skill number 2, we reframe the story. And then number 3, we stress test our system. That's what you do. But there is one more skill, and it might be the most important one, because not one person in history survived hard times entirely alone. So that is why the skill number 4 is what I call village activation. And I was deliberate in that because the village people have become, like a really bad term in this part of the world now. But I want to reframe that, because the village used to be, before the Nollywood movies came and then gave us a village people concept. The village used to be the best periods of my life, the best phase of my life was in the village. I still go to that village where we grew up, the community of this. This was like 50 years ago. Those were my best times. There's almost no day I don't remember, my childhood friends. And today, as it was raining, I was just narrating to my son what the tropical rainstorms of those days used to be like. The tropical rains, massive trees and forests we had in those days. Not today that the forests have been cut down and then people have built houses over those places. I still remember. And village in those days, my goodness. I remember not once, not twice, when somebody in the village, in the community, passed the common entrance to go to secondary school and university in those days. I remember how the community will come together and bring money and contribute. See this GoFundMe you're talking about? This GoFundMe of this. We were doing GoFundMe. We were doing GoFundMe in the village in those days, naturally. Because in my village, and it might be the same in your village, They say that it takes a village to raise a child. And that was literally true. Nobody said, oh, this is not my son. This is not my own child. Everybody came to, and it happened. I saw it. I witnessed it. People came together, including my father, and brought money and contributed money to send somebody in the village to secondary school in those days. And after secondary school, you got admission to the university. The whole village came together to contribute money to send you to the university. So what I want to do with this skill is to rewire your instinct for your instinct for independence into a strategy for interdependence. Interdependence. Okay? For 99% of human history, if you were alone, you died. That's not an exaggeration. You look at it like in the animal kingdom today, the lone wolf in nature is either old or is sick or is dead. The pack survive. They hunt in packs, they moved in packs. And that was how we were, in our villages and clans. But somewhere, like in the last 100 years, we got this idea that independence is the ultimate virtue. I don't need anyone. I can do it by myself. I'll handle it. It's terrible. We weren't like that before. And then, unfortunately, I think the religious systems also came and unfortunately amplified this idea, turning everybody in the village into enemies. This person is after you. This person went to a witch doctor so that your family will not survive. Because of so, and prophets will say, oh, your uncle, this person is against you. Oh, this person, and that's what they prophesy about, the so-called prophecies. So now, people are now dealing alone. Now you have siblings who can't eat in each other's house because they are scared that this one will poison them. And then you start hearing stories, which is how confirmation bias happens. You start hearing stories that confirm that those things are like that. Okay, but let me tell you something. Self-sufficiency is a luxury of stable times. But in unstable times, interdependence is survival. Interdependence. Like I was just telling you about our ancestors. My grandfather, great-grandfather, they didn't have friends the way we do. They had tribe. They moved in a tribe. One person hunted, one person gathered, one person watched for predators, one person tended the fire. Everyone brought a skill. Everyone had a value. So let's do exercise. So I want you to do an exercise I call asset mapping. All right? Asset mapping. So I want you to write down in your note the names of 5 people in your life. Not your 5,000 Instagram friends. 5 actual humans. Many of you have 10,000 followers, 100,000 followers. I have hundreds of thousands of followers across different social media. But followers are not friends. That's a big mistake. And then sometimes you need to leave that your computer. Get out there in the streets. Get out there in your neighborhood. Meet actual human beings. Meet actual human beings. That's the blessing. My generation, we still have it. I have actual human friends that I sit with, that I speak with, that I call on phone. If I call my bosom friend, Patrick, right now, we can talk. We can talk for the next 40 minutes. Powerful things. He's giving me strategy. I'm giving him strategy. And we have each other's back. That's interdependence. So write the names of 5 people in your life, actual humans. So next to each name, write down one skill or resource they have that you don't. Okay, so maybe John is good, very good with cars as a mechanic, or just generally very good with cars. There are people who can listen to your car engine, and then they hear what you're doing, and they say, oh, I think the fan belt, needs changing. Maybe Jane is calm in crisis. That's a resource. That's a skill. Maybe James has a truck. Maybe Sarah knows how to create a vegetable garden, to do organic farming. Maybe your mom is a great listener. These are resources. Now, but the hard part is, what is your own skill? What do you bring to the tribe? The reason is, this thing only works in a give and take fashion, because survival is not about taking from others, and that's the problem that many of us have. And that's the problem, that you never have good friends, and that's the problem that people run away from you. I have somebody, in fact, not just one person. The only time he calls me is when he needs money. Once I see his call or I see his chat, it's money. And then sometimes he's calling or I sense a chat. I just tell my wife, okay, just turn on, put it on speaker note. It's money. He's a taker. Not once in years has he asked, oh, but what can I do for you? What challenge do you have that I can help you? Not once. But every time he calls me, it's a problem with money. So it's not about taking. You cannot just show up to the village with your hand out. You have to bring something to the fire. So that's important. So there's a very, very powerful psychological truth. People want to help people who are trying to help themselves. That's another thing. If you are the person who shows up with a skill, you show up with a meal, you show up with a listening ear, you show up with a positive attitude, when you fall, 5 people will be there to catch you. So it's important. Okay? So the world is not going to fix you, but your village will help you fix yourself. But you have to build your village, build the village before the storm hits. You can't build a raft in a flood. So tonight I want you to text to one of those 5 people. Be very practical. Do it. Text to one of those 5 people, not to ask them for anything, not to ask them for money or for something, just to check in. Say, hey, I was just thinking of you. How are you really doing? Find your tribe. That is the seed of that tribe. You need a tribe to go through difficult times together. Okay, so let's recap on the 4 skills you need in your hard times survival skill. So number 1 is radical acceptance. You remember? You stop fighting reality. It is what it is. Okay? So you move the energy from the left column to the right column, from the things you cannot control to the things you can control. And so you stop bleeding out energy. Number 2, narrative reframing. You change the story from because to so that. Now, when you do that, what you've done is to turn your pain into purpose. And you remember Viktor Frankl. So when you have a very strong why, you can deal with any how or anything that comes. And then you are no longer a victim. Instead, you are the protagonist of your life story. Skill number 3 is anti-fragility training. So you committed to giving yourself micro doses of discomfort. Go out, seek discomfort, seek rejection. Don't be a Mr. Nice person. Nice. Seek rejection. Ask. Open your mouth. Ask things. Okay? You're stress testing your system so that the big wave, when it comes, it will not break you. And then finally, we're talking about village activation. Find your tribe. Your tribe is not necessarily your tribe. If you're a Fulani, if you're a Hausa, or if you're a Jaw, you're Yoruba or Igbo, that's not what we're talking about. But find a village. That's your tribe of assets, of skills and resources. Okay? And then you remember that you are not meant to do this alone. You need to create a tribe of interdependent skills. People around you that have interdependence. So like if I need something, there's a name that I call. And then they themselves, they call me when they need something because I have something I bring to the table. Okay? So you came here tonight carrying a heavy bag, so your thought was full of bricks, the weight of the world, the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty surrounding the world because of all the global secrets. But the truth is, these are not bricks. They are actually building materials. And why are they building materials? Because acceptance is the foundation, reframing is a blueprint for the building, anti-fragility is a steel frame that carries the structure, and then the village is the roof that keeps out the rain. Did you get blessed tonight? Say so. And then for those of you in the Financial Fitness Challenge, go to the Telegram group right now and then type your aha moments. Tell me, what was your aha moment today? What lit your brain? What lit your whole life? What excited you that you can't wait to share with other people or to start doing right now to change your life? Make sure you go to the Telegram Telegram group right now and type your aha moment. And for the rest of you, those of you who are not in the Financial Fitness Challenge group, the Financial Fitness Challenge is my wealth mentorship group. When you join, you have access to a learning portal, a stepwise system of videos and worksheets that you will take to get yourself financially prepared and also to help you to retire early so that you can face the real work that God put you to do here. So if you go to the description section of this video, you are going to see how to join the Financial Fitness Challenge. Do so right now and join the Financial Fitness Challenge. And then whatever happens, keep showing up because you have no idea what's coming your way next. I will see you same time next week. Have a good evening.